Hello there. In this video lesson we're going to show you how you can use a basic hexagonal pendant and add a couple of objects to it, and in this instance we're going to add a letter M and a letter S as shown in the image there. So if you start Fluid Designer up, we're going to use this object here, this 30mm hexagonal pendant. But if I just click on Group Library and go to Harrington font patterns, I'm going to use this letter M and this letter S and place them inside the pendant. So if I just go back to pendants first of all, so it's my pendants folder. So I'm looking for a 30mm hexagonal pendant, and I'll just drag and drop that onto the workspace. And I want to append an M and an S to that. So we go to, well, let me just switch on screencast keys. If I go to File and Append, and just go up through the menu system until you get to the Groups folder. And the folder we're going to use, its patterns, it's alphabet Harrington font, and first of all I'm going to use a letter M, and it's always the objects that you append, so it's a Harrington font M object. We append it from the library, and just click on it, and I'll just move it to the left slightly. And then if we go to File and Append, now we want a letter S, so if I just go through the menu system, I'm still in Harrington fonts here. I want Harrington font letter S, and again it's the object that I want, so it's Harrington font S object that I append from the library. And if I just click on that object and just move it to the right, now you see that they're a little bit too small to fit in the pendant, but that's not to worry about that. If we highlight the S, and if we hold down the Shift key and highlight at letter M, I'm going to go to Tools, Object Tools, and I'm going to join them together. And notice I've got some overlap here, and I do need overlap for 3D printing. Objects have got to touch. Now what I want to do is I need to make this a little bit bigger. But I also want to rotate it so that my connector here is at the top, and I can read the M and the S. So in other words, I want to be that way round really. So let's see, I'll rotate it about the X-axis. So I can do that. I can do R on the keyboard, limit the rotation to the X-axis, and I want to rotate it 180 degrees. So that's basically the way my M and the S is going to appear. But if I just go to View and Top View now, I know it's upside down at the moment, but I need to make the M and the S a bit bigger. And the way to make it bigger in Fluid Designer is to press S on the keyboard for scale, and then just drag the mouse out until it's just touching the edge of the pendant. Now it overlaps a little bit too much at this side. We could perhaps increase the overlap on this side. So if we do that by moving here, we're moving it too much. So what we could do is, if we go to the main information icon over here, if you look in there, you'll see it's the location is the value that's changing as I move this. So it's moving from location -4 to -5 is a bit too much. So if I click in there and if I change it to -4.5, yeah, that's okay now. If I zoom in here, you can see that's about halfway, and that should be okay as well. I mean, I can always tweak it a little bit later. Okay, so now what I want to do is to join my M and the S object. Oh, I think I didn't apply the scale. Did I apply the scale? You always, when you scale, you always must do Control A and apply the scale. No, I didn't actually apply the scale there. I saw it just shrink down a little bit, which has actually made it a bit better because it's just touching the inside there. Yeah, I very nearly forgot there to apply the scale. Whenever you scale any curve, and that's what these are curves, as we can see here. The curve icon is in display in the properties panel. Whenever you scale a curve, always do Control A and apply the scale. Otherwise you will have issues with 3D printing. So with the M and the S selected, if I hold down the Shift key on my keyboard and click on the pendant, I can go to Tools, Object Tools, and join them together. Okay, so there's my M and S now. Now if this was sticking out a little bit down here, you can always go into Edit mode, and if you switch the snap off, you can always adjust this. Now notice the side of the pendant is moving. The reason the side of the pendant is moving is because of that circle there. That's the proportional editing. Now you probably wouldn't want proportional editing on if you're adjusting this, so the thing to do is to scroll it right in or press O on the keyboard to switch it off. Now you don't want it sticking out, so you could just position it there about in the center. So that's just fine-tuning it if you needed to. It's okay at the moment. I mean, if I just pull it out there, you can see it sticking through. You don't want it sticking through. You want it to be in the center there. You do want some overlap. You want it touching, otherwise you won't have a 3D printable object. And similar here, you do need some overlap, otherwise you won't have a 3D printable object. Okay, so we've got our M and S there, and essentially all we need to do now is to save the OBJ file. So we export the OBJ file. So if we go to File and Export it as a wavefront OBJ file to the desktop. So it's a 30mm hexagonal pendant, and it's got an M and an S Harrington font. Whoops, Harrington font. So you can export that to the desktop, and as always you'd need to then run that file through Netfabb Basic and just verify that it's 3D printable and make some minor repairs to it, and that's essentially it. And I'll just let that finish saving. Notice the reason it took quite a bit of time there is if you look up in the toolbar there, you see the 190,000, 189,000 faces to this object, which will mean that it's actually nice and smooth. Now if you did want to change the thickness of this object, you can always go to show the curve data information and change the cross section, but obviously you do want a nice appearance. So if you change it to 2 by 2, looks a bit squashy, doesn't look very good, so you can play around with that until you're happy with the size that you want. Should have done that really before we actually saved it as an OBJ file. So yeah, I mean essentially if I just go to File and New first of all, there's lots and whoops, File and New, didn't intend to open that. There's lots and lots of different sizes. Oh dear me, I'm just clicking too hard here. Lots and lots of different sizes, 15mm, 20mm, 25mm. There's hexagonal, octagonal, circular, triangular and square options available at these different sizes, and essentially you can then append lots and lots of different types of objects. So you could append these objects, for example, into the pendant, or you can go to have a look through the various patterns that are available and append those objects and place them inside the pendant in very much the same way as I've just done. Okay, so yeah, that's it for this video lesson. Thank you.